Today we are going to solve equations with rational exponents. The do now is asking you, what do you need to multiply each of these numbers by to get a product of 1? That is going to be an essential idea of what we're doing today. So what would you have to multiply 2/3 by to get a product of 1? Well, 2/3 times 3 over 2 is equal to 1. So the answer would be 3 over 2. What would you have to multiply negative 1 over 4 by to get a product of 1? You'd have to time by negative 4 over 1, and that would give you 1. So negative 4 is the answer to number 2. So what do we call numbers like 2/3 and 3 over 2, or negative 1/4 and negative 4 over 1? Those are reciprocals. Okay, and the product of reciprocals equals 1. Another important concept here is when you have a positive, the reciprocal is positive. But when you have a negative, the reciprocal is negative. So I always like to put a little note. Reciprocals of negatives are negative. Okay? Now we're reviewing simplifying each power of a power. So earlier in the topic, before the graded assignment, we talked about taking a power to a power. Inside and outside exponents get multiplied. So here, if I multiply 2 times 1/2, I get a product of 1. So x to the second raised to the 1/2 is the same thing as x to the first power, which is essentially just x. Next one, x to the 3/4 times 4 over 3. Again, since they're reciprocals, they give me a product of 1. So we're left with x by itself. And lastly, again, reciprocals, negative 1 over 2 times the negative 2. Again, this is going to result in just x because you got a product of 1, which is x to the first. So using these ideas are how we're going to isolate the y in an equation that looks like this. So how, if I have y raised to the 3/4 power, am I going to isolate the y? And the idea is, if I raise y to the 3/4 power to the 4 over 3 power, I get just y by itself, because 3/4 times 4/3 is 1. And whatever I do to one side of an equation, I have to do to the other. So 125 to the 4/3 power, again, it's power over root. So I could know that the cube root of 125 is 5. 5 to the 4th power, I believe, is 625. But let's check the calculator. Make sure you know how to type that into the calculator. 125 to the, and then we would want to do 4/3. 4/3 power, and really weird that it's giving you the 624.9999999. Your calculator might not be doing that, but that's 625. It's like one of those weird ones. And that's an exact number that we did not round that. And that's your final answer for this. So that's what you're going to have to know how to do today. So you're going to want to be able to put these exponents in the calculator. Sliding up, here's your steps that I'm going to follow with all 4 of the examples that we're doing together, and then you're going to complete the last 3 on your own. First step is to isolate the power. So the power is just the base to the exponent. In order to isolate the power, we would first undo addition or subtraction, and then undo multiplication or division, just like when you're solving a linear equation. Once we have The base with the exponent by itself, you raise both sides to the reciprocal power. So looking at number 1 here, the base to the exponent is just the x to the negative 1/3 power. So what do I have to do to isolate that? I'd have to first divide both sides by that 2. And I get x to the negative 1/3 power equals 6 divided by 2, which is 3. Now it's exactly like the problem above, where I raise both sides to the reciprocal power. So the negative 1/3, I'm going to raise to the negative 3/1 power, which is just negative 3. So when I have on this side, multiplying the exponents, negative 1/3 times negative 3/1 is just going to give you a positive 1. So now I have x by itself, and then 3 to the negative 3rd power, you could put in the calculator, is going to give you 1/27, and that's your final answer. Number 2, to isolate the power, again here the power is the y to the negative 3/2. I'm going to first have to undo that addition by subtracting 2 on both sides first. I get y to the negative 3/2 is equal to 8. And then I raise both sides to the reciprocal power. So you have to know that the reciprocal of negative 3/2 is still negative, and it's 2/3. So I have to raise the 8 to the negative 2/3 power also. So we get y equals, it's going to be 1 over, because of that negative exponent again, and it's going to be 4. In the calculator, I'm going to press 8 and then the exponent, negative 2 divided by 3, and you get the 1/4. Okay, 2 more together, and then you're going to try 3 on your own. What do I have to do on number 3 first to isolate the power? I just have to minus 2 on both sides again. Sorry, that was a little similar. And then both sides get raised to the reciprocal power. What's the reciprocal of negative 3/2? It's negative 2/3. Did I copy the same example twice and I'm doing it twice? Like as if it's 2 different examples. I apologize. So we already know the answer there is 1/4. That was dumb. Number 4. Okay. Number 4, I'm going to, what do I have to do to get the power by itself? The x to the 2/3. Again, 2 steps here now, because there's the 4 in front and the minus 5. So like I said before, we're first going to undo the addition here. Get 4x to the 2/3 power equals 25. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 4. I have both sides divided by 4. So I get x to the 2/3 power is now isolated. The power is isolated. 25/4. I'm just going to keep as a fraction because it doesn't divide in. And then after I have the power isolated, I raise both sides to the reciprocal power. The reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. So in the calculator, I'm going to put inside parentheses 25 divided by 4. Outside the parentheses, hit the exponent key, and then put 3 divided by 2 in there. And I get x equals 125/8. And I would always just keep it a fraction. Okay, so 3 examples on your own right now of getting the power by itself, which it's already by itself in number 5. Number 6 and number 7, you're going to have to isolate the power and then raise both sides to the reciprocal power. We're going to practice this again tomorrow also. I'm not going to move on. So take your time and practice.